Back here at home, online betting is at the center of a lawsuit filed by Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul Thursday, targeting those platforms. The United Nations speaking out today, saying those companies are skirting longstanding gaming laws by labeling bets as prediction markets. The state's lawsuit names several major online platforms, including Kalshi, Polymarket, Robinhood, Coinbase, and Crypto.com, accused of offering what it calls disguised sports betting through event contracts. Tribal leaders say these platforms are operating outside a system they've followed for decades.
The United Nations stands firmly in our support of the fair enforcement of Wisconsin laws and respect for tribal sovereignty.
Chairman Tahasi Hill says tribal gaming is subject to strict oversight, including audits, internal control, and consumer protections, and says those requirements do not apply to prediction market platforms.
There's a very large disparity between what tribes face and have to do to have regulated gambling in the state of Wisconsin as opposed to what these prediction markets are putting forth.
The United Nations raised concerns with this state in late 2025, asking for a review of these platforms.
We've sent a letter to Attorney Josh Kaul back in November, asking him to look into these markets and again to just make sure that everyone is on the same fair playing field.
And now the state is asking a court to declare sports-related event contracts illegal and to shut down what it alleges is unauthorized betting on those platforms.
The companies collect a fee, we allege, for every bet that's made, leading them to earn significant revenue from Wisconsinites through violations of our state's gambling regulations.
We reached out to all the companies named in the lawsuit. Robinhood sent a statement saying its event contracts are federally regulated and offered through a registered entity, and that it intends to defend itself against the claims. Kaul says the case targets the companies, not individual users, but notes that for now, most commercial sports betting remains illegal in Wisconsin. Now, this comes just weeks after Governor Tony Evers signed a law legalizing online sports betting, but only through tribal compacts. The state still has to negotiate new agreements with tribes before that can launch.